Hello! Welcome to the live stream. You should let me know if you can see and hear me, because I am running this by myself. So, there's always the question of whether or not it's actually correct. And it looks like I'm in focus. Maybe too close, quite honestly. Okay. Folks say they can see and hear me. Aaron is, not here because he is he's in New Zealand where I'm headed. So and it's like 6:30 in the morning there, which is where it will be when I am next time. So Latitude says, I see the donut. Yes, of course, the most important. It is my birthday this week, so I almost got a birthday cake donut. However, I don't really like birthday cake, so instead I got a kind of 4th of July themed, I don't know. It's a blueberry crumble donut. So, I think we've had this one before. I may have actually had this one last 4th of July on the stream. I'm not feeling very optimistic or enthusiastic about America today. So, just generally, so not hecka into 4th of July, but I am into themed outfits. So we're gonna roll with the outfit, even though I not feeling great about, Independence Day in the United States. And ironically, I am running away from the United States to a forcibly overthrown and colonized former independent state that was acquired by the US, which is Hawaii, and then I am going to New Zealand, which still has the Queen of England as their monarch. So I feel like the irony of doing that 4th of July is kind of funny. In like travel and finance related news, I never ever buy travel insurance because I don't like to buy insurance for something that I can insure myself. So as long as I have like emergency evacuation medical coverage, which I do think is important, I don't get like travel insurance that's like, oh, if your flight gets canceled, we'll pay you or whatever. But given how bad air travel has been recently and the extreme likelihood of seemingly having your flight canceled, especially there were really few flights to New Zealand when I booked this. And so, and the fact that like I'm going and I don't have to pay for a hotel because I'm glomming onto a work trip for Aaron. All of this to say, if anything goes wrong, if I get stuck there, if I come down with COVID and I can't leave the country or whatever, like it could be very expensive. So I ended up doing it just because while I can cover like rebooking a flight, I can cover it would now be financially not prudent to spend like my own money on 10 plus days of a flight or 10 plus days of a hotel if I had to quarantine for some reason in New Zealand, and then additionally on a new flight because flights have gotten so expensive. So New Bold One says, oops. Ash says, same, Lily. Yeah, I don't think any of us are feeling particularly enthusiastic about the US. I will say I'm not usually much of a Independence Day celebrator anyway, because it does kind of feel like a glossing over a lot of the very horrific colonization of the native folks in America. It's like European glorification settlement, but I don't like monarchies. Although I enjoy watching Netflix series about them. So, feel free to keep coming. Young Royals, cutest thing on Netflix. But I don't like monarchy, so I do celebrate it in the case of it's nice to celebrate like modern democracy, birthplace, combined with over getting rid of a colonizer monarch. So I support that part. I also really don't like fireworks very much, which apparently I was asking a Hawaiian friend, well, originally she's from Guam, but she lived in Hawaii for quite a long time. I was asking her about if Hawaii was likely to celebrate 4th of July, and she's like, oh, it has nothing to do with being part of America. It has everything to do with an excuse for fireworks. So I think it's going to be really crowded with fireworks there. Latitude says, a headband. Yeah, I didn't go full, like, victory pillbox hat. I figured, this is what we got. Ash says, fireworks are the worst. Yeah, I'm going to be gone on the evening of 4th of July, and fireworks are actually banned in Portland right now. We have a burn ban. However, I believe they're still doing the, like, official on the water fireworks, which the good news is that we're, like, several miles from the waterfront, so we can usually see the fireworks, but they won't be, like, super loud. But also, we usually ban a lot of fireworks for 4th of July, and that does not stop people from setting them off. So I'm having our next door neighbors in our apartment building who are here for the 4th come and just, like, make sure the cat's okay. She doesn't tend to get too freaked out by fireworks, but she doesn't like loud noises like most creatures. So I'm gonna, like, leave my closet open for her so she can, like, go hide. So yeah. Ash says, loud, pollutive, fire risk. I know, they really, I mean, in the Pacific Northwest, this is like fire season, so it's an absolutely terrible time to be setting off sticks of dynamite. I just, like, freely and, like, handing them to children in the form of sparklers. So yeah. Well, so what we're going to be talking about today, besides eating this donut, I kept it easy for myself because I actually need to pack. Would people be interested in a pack with me video? I do, like, a fairly light version of travel. I've done some other videos about, like, how I prepare for a country where I don't speak the language and stuff, but would a pack with me be interesting? I can film when I pack. I also need to, like, clean the house and set stuff up for cat sitters. I'm also considering going to Sephora today because you get, like, a birthday thing on your birthday month. And I was like, oh, I could probably get, like, sample sizes of makeup because usually that's what the birthday kit stuff is. And that might be good for travel. So we'll see if I'm willing to bike downtown or not to go to Sephora today, but I'm considering that. But yeah, I have, like, quite a long list of things to do. I have backed up all my hard drives and everything, and I did about half the house cleaning yesterday, but then I went to an Oh My Dollar meetup. I don't know if we call it an Oh My Dollar meetup. At this point, they're all people that we, like, met on either the MMM forum or the Oh My Dollar forums. But we're, like, IRL friends now, and we don't, like, publish it really as, like, an Oh My Dollar meetup anymore, but it was technically an Oh My Dollar meetup at Brackenjoy's house up in Vancouver, which meant that I biked like 30 miles yesterday, and I skated 90 minutes because I went up to the rink up there. So it was really fun. I got to see a bunch of people from the Oh My Dollar forums yesterday. I don't know if it was an official meetup. I was thinking about doing something in New Zealand, but I think we have actually, like, only one person in New Zealand that's, like, super active on the forums that lives there right now. We have some people that are, like, New Zealanders, but they live in Australia. And they're not in Auckland. So I don't know if it'd really be one. Ash says, I keep forgetting I'm actually in your area now. Yeah. Right, because you've moved now. New Bold One says, another 5 to 10 years we'll be able to do fireworks with drones anyways. Fingers crossed. They're already doing drone fireworks. They've been doing drone fireworks for a long time. I'm not wrong about this, am I? Now I'm questioning I thought there were already drone fireworks. I thought that's how they do that now. Yeah. I mean, you can set off fireworks with drones. But I hope that actual drone shows, oh, they do coordinated displays. I just saw that when I looked that up. So, like, drones, like, sparkly lights and stuff like that. Probably just taking low-key surveillance video of all of us while they do it. But not the real whoosh effects yet. Great. I mean, I would particularly like it if I didn't have to deal with lots of people that have post-traumatic stress disorder after every 4th of July and New Year's that are extremely stressed. It's, like, very bad for animals. It's very bad for pets. It's bad for wildlife. Fireworks are not very good. And they're not as tightly regulated as I think people believe that they are. So, yeah, I just don't like them very much. I think I liked them a little more as a child. And then one year, so fireworks are where I'm from, really good fireworks shows are actually quite common because um the because like Rosie's Fireworks, which is one of the big like fireworks like manufacturers, actually has its testing facility outside of course, because it's like in the cornfields of Ohio. Um, they're outside of Cincinnati, where I'm from, and so every like small suburban town had like an amazing fireworks show, better than the city of Portland, and we're a significantly bigger city, I would say. But then one year the fireworks in my town like were miscalculated or something, and there was fireworks fallout, and there was just like raining fiery ash from the sky, and a bunch of people got burned, and like the cars in the parking lot were getting scorched and everything. And I've just been like less of a fan of fireworks since then. Newbold one says, right. Well, I hope that drone fireworks happen. So I have my Rachel says that seems terrifying. Yeah, it get legit very terrifying. And this is like in a relatively small suburban town because we lived in the suburbs until I was like 12 or something. So yeah, not a fan. Also in Berlin, I have to say, so like Germans. And my experience as a foreigner in Germany is that Germans love rules, but they're also like very into figuring out their way around rules. So, or when they're given a exception to the rule, they will go ham. So, one of those examples is that fireworks are only legal in Germany for like 10 days a year. They're the 10 days like surrounding New Year's Eve. And because of that, Berlin is just absolutely just a terrifying storm of fireworks. I mean, like, you'll see like 6-year-olds with boxes of dynamite just like lighting all of the sticks on the sidewalk. And it's like really scary to just like walk outside in Berlin on New Year's Eve. And it sounds like a war zone. And it's not like, doesn't sound like a war zone in a hyperbole way. It actually sounds like a war zone. And yeah, it's just very terrifying in Berlin. I don't know if they're ever gonna like chill out. Maybe they will this year because nobody has any money because fuel costs are so high. So yeah. Camille says, wow, I've experienced fireworks fallout and it was like a war zone. Yeah, it's I like how we keep comparing these to war zones. Exactly why fireworks are so bad for veterans with PTSD. And not just veterans, like anybody that has PTSD from a war zone. It's very terrifying. And why we shouldn't do them. Also, like I think we can't seem to get people to change their behavior in big ways that would affect climate change, but fireworks seem like low-hanging fruit. Like, get rid of fireworks shows, at least we'll be slightly reducing the amount of dangerous stuff we put into the air. So, Newbold one says, don't go to the Valencia during the Fallas. Jenny says, fireworks are scary. My grandfather lost his eye when he was a child. This is in the 1930s and there were probably no regulations at all and children could just light fireworks. I gotta say, even if there are regulations, I see children lighting fireworks all the time. So, yeah, that is scary stuff. It's scary stuff, y'all. Or lose in the UK on fireworks night. Oh yeah, on like bonfire night, 4th of November, or 5th of November. Yeah. Whew. All right. I've never been so terrified by bonfire night as when there was a Sherlock episode where one of them was buried under the bonfire and they had to like race across London to save him from being tied up and buried in a bonfire before everybody set the bonfire on fire. And I still like, that is like a nightmare scenario to me. So I think it's a nightmare scenario to a lot of people. I don't think I'm special in that regard. So here's my, here, I'll show you all my June expenses. Here's my June expenses and all of my other data. I did this for you this morning and a little bit Friday night just so that I would have it for the stream. I don't know, it's very exciting. The 59% of my gross income saved looks a lot more exciting than it is. It's actually because my gross income was so high, but I already put money into my SEP IRA, or my gross income was so low that my SEP IRA contribution was like a high percentage of my gross income. My gross income was not actually greater than my expenses this month. And that is because I am still not full-time working at my new job. So it's fine. I have savings. I am starting to get a little low-key stressed about that because, oh, my dollar income has been dropping because I haven't been able to put time into it in quite a long time, other than, live streams and a little bit of the radio show. And then I'm working on a book right now. So that is taking up a lot of my energy. Anyway, oh, my dollar income is like all that I'm living off of right now. And because of that, I am getting a little stressed that my new job hasn't really kicked in yet. It's not one of those things where I'm just like get a salary as soon as I start. It's like technically I'm an independent contractor, which is really common in financial services. And there is a slow ramp up period. Really hope it wasn't a massive mistake. So, Aaron says it's almost 7 a.m. here in New Zealand and it's still pitch black. I forgot that I went to a place where it's winter. At least it's not like as extreme, right? So it's not, but yeah, 7 a.m. Whew. That's so funny because it was almost 10 p.m. last night and I was like, the sky is still light here. I'm excited to have my first winter birthday. Maybe Aaron's birthday is the end of December, so maybe we should go to the Southern Hemisphere for your birthday so you can experience a summer birthday and I can experience this winter birthday. We can both have our like birthday opposite. I'm excited to experience a winter birthday, even though it's not like super, super wintry there. So yes, I don't know. Anybody have any questions about my expenses? The $261 on clothing was 4 sweaters, 4 cardigans that were like 30 to 70% off from Emmy Sweden Design, which is a made in Europe, like historical reproduction indie brand. They're based out of Sweden, and so they had their midsummer sale because it's a big holiday in Sweden. And they had like previous seasons were extremely discounted, and I've wanted to get some of their sweaters. They're 100% merino wool, which is I'm a huge fan of. It's just very good for the Pacific Northwest because it rains here all the time. Still keeps you warm even when it's wet, and you don't smell, so you can wear it for weeks on end. So I got 3 sweaters from them. They aren't here yet. I was really hoping they would arrive before I went to the winter, because getting myself sweaters for my birthday in July means I'm not going to have an opportunity to wear them for a while. Rachel says, you have bras as a separate category from clothing? Yes. And the reason I do that actually is just because I am really bad at buying bras. And the last time I had bought, and I like to track like how long it has been to try to force myself to buy bras. So I bought all the bras I got. I was replacing bras that I last bought in 2015. So, which, just to be clear, your bras being, or 2014, I think, maybe even. Anyway, your bras being 7 or 8 years old is not good. And so I do track it as a separate category. I can actually like look it up and see that, but yeah. New Bold One, he says, you almost biked as many hours as as many miles as hours you slept. That's impressive. We could do it in kilometers, and then I've biked even more. Yeah, it's Pedalpalooza, so my biking number was like double what it was the month prior. It's still like way lower than it was back when I had a commute, but RIP commutes. Jenny says, I know I've commented on it before, but how do you keep food expenses so low? Okay, here's the thing. That's really high for me, and it keeps being high. The first answer is that I am a small human, so I don't require as many calories to fuel. So I have a lot of tiny human privilege there, because I'm I'm less than 5 feet tall, so I just require less calories to like function. I am vegan, so that means I don't buy dairy or meat, and those are actually the categories that have gone up the most in price right now. Although grains are also high, and I do eat a lot of grains. Uh, and the last answer to that is that I cook a lot of my own food. I don't tend to get a lot of prepared foods, although like in May I got almost entirely prepared foods because I had an exam and then I had COVID. So I was like, I had stuff that was like really, I got from the grocery store that was like super easy to make when I was doing a lot of studying leading up to my exam. And then I got COVID and I actually didn't have much of an appetite, but it's gone up so much. It's actually like, it's really stresses me out. We could show this off actually. We open my budget, you can see just how much. I'm doing this on the iPad, so we'll turn off the screen for a second while it loads. But yeah, like if I pull up this report, it's just really food inflation is getting me. I used to be able to kind of escape it a little bit. And it is seriously affecting me. I used to spend like on average about $135 a month on groceries, and now it's getting up there. I think the average is getting closer to like 65 or something. So, let's do, yeah. So for this year and last year, my average is now 130. So let's go back to April 2015. So let's show you off. So this is what this looks like when it comes to like my spending overall. I mean, my average in the past, this is only through December 2021. So now let's see. So yeah, 162 per month. But that includes all the categories, including my CSA share, coffee, tea for home, which I used to not drink coffee. And you can see that it starts forming there. I track treats as a separate category, and I have for a bunch of years, which is a poorly defined category that I use to mean things that are just like not really essential. So it'll be something that like ice cream, or like if I buy myself some sort of like convenience item, and I just do it to keep an eye on it. But that category has gone up a lot more because like prepared foods and processed foods have gotten up a lot more expensive. I used to keep track of the SodaStream refills because particularly it was interesting for me how much less I had spent on alcohol for home. But I don't, because I don't drink anymore. But Jenny says, I cook everything at home. We never eat out or order food. We're vegetarian, and we spend $8.80 for 3 people last month on groceries. Well, I'm also just one person, but let's see. $8.80 divided by 3 is $2.93 a person, and then $2.93 Canadian to USD is $2.27. So you're not that much higher than me. You're only a little bit higher than me. So yeah, I think that's. Oh, I also don't drink alcohol. I don't know how much that that factors in. Some people include alcohol in their grocery budget, and other people don't. But yeah, also there's regional variations, right? Like there's tons of regional variations in how much you might like spend on groceries just based on what is available there. Jenny is like, we don't drink. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. But it's like I have a friend who lives in Berlin who is from Long Island, like New York City area. And she was like, oh, I spend so much less money in Berlin on groceries. She's lived there for like, I think over a decade. And she's like, oh yeah, I spend a lot less than I do back home. And it's funny to me because for me, I was like, oh no, I spend way more in Berlin than I do back home in Portland, on groceries. And I didn't really significantly change my habits. The only thing was that I wasn't able to get ingredients for tacos when I lived in Berlin because it's like impossible to get Mexican food in Europe. If people in Europe claim that it's Mexican food, it's not. So like even the ingredients for them at a grocery store, like tortillas and stuff, will be like pitas instead of actually corn tortillas. So it was incredibly hard to source like tortillas and black beans and stuff like that in Europe. So I didn't eat tacos every morning there, but I ate like tofu scramble every morning, and the uh it was like I definitely spent way more in Berlin than I do here in the US. So Christopher says, whenever you get in the new house, is it in the plan for you to grow your own plants for food? So I will almost definitely be growing some herbs. Because if people don't know, we don't have any outdoor space here. So because we live in an apartment. The Previously, when we had a balcony, access to a balcony, we were growing habaneros, lettuce, and herbs. I used to work on an organic farm. I have lived at an eco village where we grew a lot of our own food. And I don't like farming or gardening very much. But I do like being in control of access to certain kinds of food. For years, I actually subscribed to a CSA. As you can see from this, those big peaks are almost every year, like the CSA, um, which gets me food for like 28 weeks. I stopped doing the CSA in, I believe, 2020, ironically, because I had decided like, oh no, 2021, because we were like, oh, we travel too much. It was too hard to keep up with the CSA. I prefer to pay other people who are good at growing food to grow food in large quantities. Also, while we are going to be in a house, it is a triplex on a regular sized lot. And because of that, we are not going to have very much room. We're going to have some plants on the roof. I do want to be able to grow lettuce and hot peppers because those are very important to my general diet. And some herbs. We will definitely be growing rosemary because you kind of can't kill rosemary in the Pacific Northwest. It's pretty much a weed here. It's not invasive. I believe it's native, but it is abundant. Rosemary grows to like massive, almost tree-sized bushes in the Pacific Northwest, even if you do almost nothing for it. So that will be nice, but probably not a ton of it. Maybe in 10 or 15 years, I'll feel like I have the time and capacity to do some more food gardening, but it isn't something I particularly enjoy doing. The big thing for me is that, while I can maintain small window boxes and stuff, I have really bad grip strength, and that's one of the reasons I didn't stay in farming or cooking, both of which were my jobs prior to going into office jobs, because it is really hard on my body with arthritis to be doing things like shoveling stuff over potatoes and the kind of work that you have to do when you're doing kind of large scale growing. So, yeah. Latitude says, oh, wow, professionals using Wine app. Jenny says, ooh, I want a rosemary bush. I am jealous. Ours die off every winter because it's too cold. Rosemary is one of those things you absolutely cannot kill here. I've heard that, a lot of the like native plant herbalists that I knew from my more completely surrounded by hippies days, the argument was that whatever grows really well and is native to a climate is often the solution to a lot of whatever the like physical ailments you experience in that climate are. And I will say that rosemary is extremely good in like tincture form at handling a lot of the kind of seasonal mold situation that we get into in the Pacific Northwest. So I still hold out on the theory that that is sometimes correct. Whatever grows well is one of the good medicines or treatments for your climate. New World One says, ooh, interesting. I mean, also, don't know if this is fact, but I think like many things, there's probably some level of truth to it. And yeah. So I was going to make my budget for New Zealand on this live stream. Then we'll get to the donut, unless anybody wants to ask any questions about eating food, about my food budget or something like that. So the way that I normally do, so as we've like talked about before, the way that I usually do my budget when it comes to traveling is and I'm going on to a different currency is that if it's a long enough trip, at least like 5 days to, up to 30 days or whatever, I will make a separate YNAB budget in that currency. And that way I can track things more granularly and convert it into the local currency so that I don't constantly have to be making decisions about whether or not something's in the budget for myself and doing the conversions in my head. So the way that I do this, I save up obviously in my main budget in USD. So it looks like I have about 500 USD still left in my travel categories. So what we were going to do, which I've already spent some money last month, I already spent some money on this trip, which is that I spent $235.66, and that was to book a day tour out to Hobbiton. And the Hobbiton is used for Hobbiton is like where they filmed The Hobbit and a bunch of the Lord of the Rings movies. We're mostly going because there isn't a lot of tourist stuff to do, and it is an excuse to see the countryside. We're also going to see Rotoro, I think that's how you pronounce it, which is a city where it's like essentially built on top of hot springs, so even the rivers are like these huge sulfur forests. So we're mostly going up there to have a day trip, but it's not somewhere that you can get to really without a car. So we booked a trip where they're going to take us up in a bus. Because you can't really take public buses up there. So, and we're not going to rent a car. So, Jenny says, we are seeing a huge increase on prices on all grains here. When you're buying grains, are you buying whole grains like rice, quinoa, or are you buying flour and baking? Oh, I don't bake at all. I absolutely don't bake. The only flour that we get is for like when I make pancakes for breakfast on the bridges. Which I never make pancakes at home, but we do get a lot of processed pasta kind of grains. So we buy rice in bulk as regular rice. We buy quinoa, which we don't use a ton of, but sometimes we use quinoa as our grain. We buy quinoa from there. The main grains that we get are actually corn tortillas, and I get popcorn, which has gone up quite a lot in price. Because popcorn is like my favorite snack, and I have an air popper, so I make it pretty frequently. And then we get pasta. Pasta has gone up about 30% in price, but I don't eat so much pasta that's making like a huge change to me. So it used to be that I could get a pack of organic pasta from Whole Foods for like £1.50 would be 99 cents. Now it is $1.29. And because of that, I have definitely I have noticed that increase, but I don't get so much of it that it has made a huge bottom line on difference in the bottom line on my budget. Generally, I like buy at most one pack a week. So yeah. Mary Jo says, oh, Hobbiton, that's so exciting. So here's the thing. I have never watched the Lord of the Rings movies. I read the books like 25 years ago. No, more than that. I read the books like maybe 25 years ago. And I remember not being like super in love with the books. And I was at a time in my life when I was reading lots of like fantasy and stuff like that. So they all just kind of blended in. So Aaron and I tried to start watching all of the Lord of the Rings movies. I actually downloaded them all onto this iPad for the plane because I've got like 26 hours of flying. And I really struggled with the really struggled with getting through even the first Lord of the Rings movie. Like, we got like an hour and a half in, and I was like, this plot is still like gone nowhere. This movie is just really wants to show you how much visual effects it has. It's essentially like long stretches of nothing happens, and you look at the pretty pastiche, and then all of a sudden it gets really violent. So I didn't remember the plot at all from reading the books. And I wasn't that impressed. So I'm not like totally stoked about going to Hobbiton from like a, yes, like it's going to be great kind of perspective, but it looks cute and pretty and everything is going to be tiny. So it'll be my size. So I'm on board with that. Also, like I said, there's very few tourist things to do right now because it's the middle of winter there, and they've been closed to tourists except Australians for some period of time, and I think like Papua New Guinea, for like more than 2 years. And because of that, a lot of the like tourist activities, including a lot of the flights, which is why I had so much trouble finding a flight, aren't really reopening until like September or October. And so there just was way fewer to do. But I am going to be free falling jumping on a wire off the tallest building in New Zealand on my birthday. Hopefully. I've booked it. So, yeah. Joe says, at least it's cute and tiny. Oh my gosh, Jenny says organic pasta here is like $8 Canadian. Yeah, that's what I mean by like regional variations. Obviously, you know, NAFTA, theoretically, you don't have to pay any trade. I believe both Canada and the US both produce most of their grain that is consumed in the country from the country. So, and obviously like wheat is a huge crop up there. So, yeah, I'm actually really surprised that how much higher it is there. Let me see if like the average price of organic pasta, average price organic pasta per pound. I want to see if like Portland is lower than the average. Okay, well, I gotta say, I guess Whole Foods is one of the cheapest places to buy this because I'm looking and it's like $4.29 to it's like $2.29 to $4.29 at Fred Meyer for organic pasta. So like the more mainstream grocery stores, the price of non-organic, which I think might be easier, the retail average price in 2021 of a pound of spaghetti or macaroni was $1.09. So, in Canada, let's see if Canada is higher. I'm really curious about this. Yeah, so once converted in, it's always been about double the US price. So between 221 and 249. Oh no, that was per kilogram. So it's about the same. I don't know. I think maybe your place is expensive. I think that's what we've got going on here is that your place is expensive. All right, let's do this New Zealand expense. So we've got 500 USD to put in the budget since I'm hoping I won't spend all 500 USD on this trip. So 500 USD. So hotel is already booked. And so hotel already being booked means that I don't think it'll be quite as bad. 500 USD in NZD. 806 New Zealand dollars. So this is how we're going to do it. I made accounts. USA is my checking account. So we're going to act like I only have $800 in my checking account. Inflow. So I set this up so it's in New Zealand dollars. Okay, so now I have $800 to budget. And we're going to hang out in the budget area. Christopher says, yes, Canada is expensive. Yes. Even though Canada makes a lot of wheat, I don't think a lot of that is organic farming. I also live far away from wheat fields. I live in a dairy country, and dairy is regulated, so it's not expensive. I mean, I live really far from wheat fields, too, but apparently that doesn't stop things, so... All right. Apparently it doesn't stop things from being cheap here, comparatively. All right, y'all. Let's do this budget. So here's are the categories. I made a special category for my birthday. My extended family, like, does, like, a gift pool for everyone's birthdays. So we, like, celebrate, throw money into a pot for each birthday. Usually I donated it, but this year I decided I didn't want to donate it. I wanted to spend some of it. So I booked that like flying bungee thing, which costs like roughly 100 USD, with the money that I got from them. That was what I asked to get from the gift pool. So The only thing is that we're gonna go to a semi-fancy restaurant for mocktails on my birthday, because it's like on a super high, like the highest building, and I figured like I'll treat myself. We looked at treating ourselves to dinner because they have like a full vegan menu with mocktail pairings and everything. And it was going to be like $100 or 80 US dollars or something like that for dinner. And I'm just not someone who likes to spend that much money on food. I'm sure it's spectacular. The menu looked great. Here, it's called Sugar Club. This is what everybody recommended. And like it's like a tasting menu, but I was just, it was just too rich for my blood. So, wait. The Sugar Club New Zealand. Maybe I need to do. Yeah, so it's in the Sky City building there and is like but these were the menus. So this was the cheap one, which was like a tasting menu sample. And it's 139 AZD, which I think worked out to like 139 New Zealand dollars, not AZD. NZD to USD. I still don't have the exchange rate memorized. So yeah, it was like $86. And I'm sure this food is fantastic, but I'm just not someone that like I would rather get like a bunch of nice bagels for the same amount of money. And I do like to spend money on going to get coffee because for me, especially like we're not going to be there. It's not the best weather there right now because it's December, essentially the equivalent of December. There, it's the middle of winter. So, like, I like to get coffee because then you can like hang out and experience some local culture and go around to different coffee shops. So I usually put more money in there. Let's say if we're gonna say it's 6 New Zealand dollars per coffee, one coffee and then one espresso per day. Let's say an espresso is 3 New Zealand dollars. I'm hoping it's not much higher than that. So 9, I'm there for a week. So yeah, let's just say 80-ish for my coffee and drinks budget, and then birthday, that would be 30. Oh, their recommendation was that you spend at least $35 on in the Sky restaurant when you make a reservation for drinks just to cover the entry cost to the building. So I'll put $40, which is just a little more in the birthday budget there. Transport. Okay, let's find. I don't actually know what how much the Auckland transit system. I used to work on the Auckland transit system in New Zealand, and it was very, very frustrating to export their data because it would always be tomorrow when we were exporting the data, and then our computers would get completely confused because we were essentially exporting a file that didn't start for a day or sometimes 2 days because of the international dateline. So Auckland, 1, do you tip in New Zealand? Let's see what the tips are in New Zealand. If I need to budget that in. The generally do not tip. There's no obligation. Okay, great. So I don't need to add 10% to the like average costs. And then how much to budget for food per day in New Zealand? Let's see. Okay. The average meal in New Zealand is about $17 New Zealand per person, so that's probably 15. 41 New Zealand dollars per day. That sounds pretty good. That's 30 US dollars, right? I usually go for whatever the budget. Oh, that's 25 US dollars per day. Yeah, I'm very happy with that. I would like that's pretty close to what I normally spend. So, 41 times I think I'm there for 7 days. All right, 287. Great. Wait, am I there for 7 days or am I there for? Yeah, I think I'm there for 7 days. Okay, 287. That's the biggest chunk of this. 287 New Zealand. Is this exciting for people? It looked like the eSIM was going to cost me about $30. I usually like to get like 10 gigs at least, just so that I don't have to worry about it. I'll double check on that. I already bought the trip insurance, so I don't actually need to budget for it in here. COVID related, they give us tests in the airport, and they're free. Like, tests are free. They give you like a set of tests and you take it when you arrive, and then you take like another one 5 days in. So it looks like I probably won't have to spend very much, but I'll put like $20 in this category in case I need to like buy masks or I don't know, buy more tests. That would be like 11 US dollars. That's not very much, but random fees, let's put 30 New Zealand dollars in there. Budget 26 New Zealand dollars. Okay, so we'll at least put 26 New Zealand dollars in the scooter budget because Aaron already tried out the scooter. And then let's see how much the bus is. Bus in New Zealand cost. I actually don't remember what they're... Okay. That was not a good search term, y'all. Okay, Auckland Transit System. I need to figure out how much the train from the airport is. Train from Auckland Airport. I think it's like quite actually far to city center because I'm pretty sure we're staying like pretty much in the city center. I think it's actually like the Auckland Airport is kind of far. Oh, it looks like you can take a bus. I thought there was a train though. Let's find out. It's not a very big city, Auckland. I know it's the largest city in New Zealand, but it's still pretty small. Okay. Train bus system. Okay. So it takes you to there. Or I can take the 38 bus. I will... Airport Link sounds expensive. Journey planner. New Bold One says, such a good idea to budget in local currency. Must help with learning the prices of things. I think it's just helpful for me, like, especially with food, is that I don't have to work as hard to do the conversions when I'm there. So if I see something on the menu for $25 and I'm 25 New Zealand dollars, I'll be like, oh my God, that's a really expensive lunch. And then I'll be like, oh, it's actually 17, or like, oh, I have plenty of money in my budget already. So it just makes it a little easier for me to like relative to it. And then what I do to actually do the data. Oh, the other thing is I don't want like all of those categories clogging up my regular budget. So I end up just dumping them into one travel category when I'm done. But I always like to publish whatever I spent while I'm traveling on my blog because I find that people like find it from Google searches when they're trying to see what to spend. And I find that a lot of travel like websites about what to spend when you're traveling in certain countries really don't always factor in the way that I travel. So I like to do it in case there's other people that are kind of in between. Like, I'm not a super budget traveler anymore. I used to be, but I'm not a super budget traveler anymore. Like, I will get a hotel, although usually I will try to get a hotel or like a hostel that I'm going to be able to get things, like inexpensive, or like on points or something like that. But I will get a hotel, and I'll also spend like a lot of money on coffee, but then I'm pretty happy eating like street food as long as I feel like it's going to be safe. Christopher says budget for data. Yeah, so I put that in. That's my eSIM. That's my data. It looks to be about $30. Oh wait, but that was in New Zealand. That was in US dollars. I think I'll put 50 in there. I still have 267 USD. New World One says it's a good way to avoid inflated tourist prices too, I'm guessing. I don't think there's going to be a lot of inflated tourist pricing because there's not going to be very many tourists in New Zealand when we're there. I don't know if you really always avoid it. Like sometimes I just accept that I'm going to pay the tourist taxes. Um, and that's just how it goes. It's just like, when I'm in certain countries, I expect to pay like a white person tax when I'm in a country where, especially like in the global south where people live on $2 a day. Yeah, I'm more than willing to pay the I am here in your country and I come from the richest country in the world tax. But I don't like paying for things that I feel like don't have value to me. So let's see. I just want someone to just concretely answer for me how much it costs to get from the airport into town. I think this is the Auckland airport. There we go. That's like the big airport. Into, let's say, Sky Tower. That's like Central City. And arrive by or depart after. Let's say depart after on, I think I'm getting there in the afternoon on a different day, but it doesn't really matter what day I'm getting there, just that I'm going to be getting there kind of late. So, all right. $2.43 Australian cents. Amazing. Oh my God, it is almost an hour. I told you I thought it was kind of long. So you take this Airbus and then it takes you to an interchange. It looks like it's pretty consistently $2.43. Okay, so it's not one of those crazy expensive things. So let's say that, okay, and then what is a day pass? Maybe I can just find pricing on the top of the... Yes, okay. Announcements, rail line closures. I like how they also call it a hop card there because that's what we call it here in Portland. What? Get half price? Aaron, not everybody has expense accounts like you. That is, I mean, I'm enjoying that I get my thing there. Okay. Wait, oh, I have to get it mailed to me. But you have to get it mailed to you? That's not. Okay. Oh my God, it's way, way cheaper if you, it's like double the price if you pay that on Mads there. Okay. Cheaper hop cards. Do you have a digital hop card so that I don't have to get it mailed to me? All right. It looks to be about, let's say that I'm going to do a 3-zone a day. Let's say that I'm going to spend like $4. Let's say I'm not going to get this half price because I'm not going to look into this right now. Oh, here's the daily fare cap. Let's find out what the daily fare cap is. Oh, never more than $20. That's pretty high. I'm not going to spend that much per day. Okay, let's say I'm there for a week and I'm going to spend 126 New Zealand dollars on transit. I feel like that's within the realm of possibility. I might spend below that. I'm going to try not to do too many lifts or whatever. Other tourist activities, I'm assuming I'll go to some museums, so 35. Oh, right. I'm going to go to the Transit Museum. Transit Museum, Auckland. And I think it's free. I think I read that it's free. Ticket prices. No, that is not free. Y'all, I can smell this donut. I'm ready to eat it. Is this an exciting activity for anyone? Watching me research what I need to spend on my trip. Aaron, you're in Auckland already. What have you found to be the price of coffee there? Can you tell me how much I need to budget for coffee? Because I was just ballparking it. I know they have good coffee, though. Individual adult admission is $19. All right. So I need to budget at least $19, and I'm going to assume I'll probably go to like one other tourist attraction. So let's say 32. Random fees, I'm going to pump this up to 50, which would be closer to 30 US. And I'm going to add a little money. There we go. Okay. I'm hoping that 115 I don't need to assign to anything. So, okay, Aaron says, I just got a flat white for $4.50. Mark says, I'm so engaged. Okay, great. I'm glad to see that this is interesting for people. Newbold One says, I'm learning as always and wishing I could do this kind of thing, as always. Well, it might be time again to do the budget app review games on the Oh My Dollar forums. So maybe we can find some kind of budget system that works for you. I don't think YNAB is going to work for your brain because you get very stressed out by this kind of stuff. But there is a couple that I did in the ADHD budgeting like tips live stream that I did last year where I talked explicitly about that. And then when people evaluated those, some of them were ones that we recommended for like ADHD, which, may or may not help if you've also got financial anxiety, but Aaron says it's much better than the hotel room coffee. Interesting. You said it was French press in the hotel room, so I was hoping that it was like Australia, where the hotel coffee was better than a lot of coffee that I get in fancy places. Newbold One says, I signed up for YNAB twice, but they send me so many emails I kind of panicked. They do send a lot of emails. I think the thing about YNAB is it has such a high learning curve that they really want to hold your hand, but you can get overwhelmed by them holding a hand. But I will say they have a ton of videos. They also have live classes where they'll teach you how to use it. But I don't think YNAB is going to work for you. It's too granular. I think you need stuff that's more high level. YNAB works great for some people. I am one of those people. The price has gone up. I've been grandfathered in for ages, and the price is going up this year. And I'm like, I will pay for it, even though the price almost went up double for me because I had this super grandfathered price for a long time. But I love it so much and it works so well for me. And there are a ton of people for which it absolutely will not work. We did the budgeting app review last year. Most of those apps are still around. Some things have fallen out of the fintech space in the past year. But I still think it is a good way. One of the categories in the timestamps for that video is actually things that are good for budgeting with ADHD. Aaron says, the French press was definitely better than US hotel room coffee. The thing I'm most sad about in the United States, and it's happening a little bit in Europe, is that those single pod coffee makers have become the norm in hotel rooms. And it used to be that you had the proper coffee pot, and I used that to heat up water and make other things. I could cook oatmeal in those. I could make ramen in them. And a lot of hotel rooms now just have those little pod coffee makers. And in addition to me not liking the pod coffee, I do think in Europe they mostly have Nespresso. I don't really like Nespresso, but I find it better than whatever the crap is in the US pod coffee makers. In addition to being just terrible for the environment, I just don't like the coffee very much on those. But I do think the Nespresso is a little better of coffee. There are 5 ways to make coffee in our hotel room in Australia. I just appreciate how into coffee Australia is. I'm hoping some of that is rubbed off on New Zealand. All right. I think this is my budget, y'all. I think we can eat this donut now. So yeah, this is roughly the budget that I'm going to follow. And then the way that it works, so like here, let me show you what it looks like for, so this was the Austria trip that I did in March. Um, and if we go back to March, you can kind of see how I use this. So this is a euro based budget, and I had the amount that I actually started with was 366 euros. And then I would, as I spent money on my Chase Sapphire Preferred, which is my card that I use when I'm traveling abroad because it has $0 of at zero foreign transaction fees, and it also gives pretty good travel perks and insurance. So I use that one when I'm abroad. So I'll enter the categories on what I spend things on, and then my business card. I didn't end up actually spending any things, but if I have stuff that is considered a business expense, this was not a business trip, I have it in there. And then I also put, when I'm traveling with Aaron, I'll put him in as a credit card. And then that means that, if one of us pays for both of us, we can essentially just split the transaction and kind of keep track rather than having to like go back and forth of, oh, I spent 20 euros on this and then you spent 10 euros on that. We can just kind of keep track of it in here. And this way I have like a good measure of that. And then if I do any withdrawals, like I did an ATM withdrawal because a lot of places, even though it was like the height of COVID, were cash only in Wien. I will take the ATM withdrawal. I will transfer it to the euros. So as you can see, I spent down the euros. Actually, after this budget was done, I ended up selling my last euros to Aaron, who was going back to Europe shortly after that. So the good news is that it makes it very easy to reconcile at the end of the trip because I can look at how much foreign cash I have and go, oh, okay, good. I captured all of the cash spending that I did. It might seem really intense to some people. I don't know. For me, it's like such a habit. I just enter all transactions in as I spend them. I like to have concrete ideas of how much stuff spends. I also have a lot of people that kind of throw me shade about like, oh, I wish I could travel as much as you. And I recognize I have a lot of privileges that goes in my ability to travel, not the least of which is an American passport and hopefully soon an EU passport. Which means that there's a lot of countries I can travel visa free to. I think there's going to be fewer and fewer of those as time goes on, and the fall of the American Empire happens. But, having a really strong passport means that it is a lot easier for me to travel. But I know a lot of other Americans that spend money in other ways that isn't how I choose to spend money because of my own values, but then simultaneously will throw me shade about, oh, well, it must be nice to be so rich that you can travel as much as you do. But in reality, I spend a lot less on travel than some people spend on things that I don't spend money on. And so one of the reasons I do keep meticulous track is that I want to make people realize that it is possible to budget for travel and to travel, and it isn't completely out of reach of the average middle class American. It doesn't mean it's for everyone. Some people don't like it. Some people have other physical reasons, where it might be challenging. Like for me, a lot of my stress goes into making sure that I can bring my medication, get it fulfilled under insurance, keep it cold. And I know a lot of other people that get really stressed out by that, especially because I tend to do a lot of long train trips. There are people for which like there's a lot of countries that are just not accessible to them because of mobility challenges. That doesn't mean that everybody wants to travel, but if you want to travel and like you're whining and you live in a rich country, you can probably make it happen based on prioritizing your money. And so I like to keep good track because I think it helps give the message that for me, it's something I prioritize, but it isn't necessarily something that I spend an absolutely outrageous amount of money on. So yeah, like here, let's see. I've done a bunch of big trips since I started using YNAB in 2015, and includes like going all the way from Dublin, Ireland to Shanghai, China by train, to, going to like doing a bunch of long trips in Europe, to, spending a month living in London. And I've kept track of all of those expenses. So let's do how much I've spent on travel since the beginning of that time. There we go. So I've spent an average of $61 per month. Hold on. I don't think that's totally. I think I need to include some hidden categories here because I think I hid my Trans-Siberian Railways category. Yeah. Okay. So my average in that total time period, including hidden categories there, $61 per month. So for and I think probably the total number, so like in 2019, for example, I spent a third of the year out of the country. I think the total number of countries I've been to in that time is probably somewhere around 35, maybe, give or take a few. I'd have to dig into it. And of course, I utilize things like points and credit cards, credit card hacking. And also, I will, whenever I have an opportunity, because Erin has a job that involves a lot of travel right now, I will also try to glom onto those trips sometimes. But the majority of the trips I do are not glomming onto Erin's like free hotels or whatever. But yeah, I spend an average of $61 a month. For some people, that might be a subscription to a gaming platform. That might be what they spend on gas. Like, it's just, for me, it's a matter of prioritizing. Christopher says, you mean you can't use his expense account? Wouldn't that be nice if I could? I wish I could, but unfortunately I cannot. Christopher says, preach. Yeah, I just think it's important for people to recognize that, like, money is an exchange of values, and one of the easiest ways to see what people value is to look at their calendar and look at their bank accounts. And it doesn't mean that travel is accessible for everyone. I'm not trying to make that claim, but I'm also not trying to claim it's a priority for everyone. But I think a lot of people get caught up in this idea that travel is something that only the richest of the richest people in the richest countries in the world can do. And it does also get a lot more expensive when you have dependents. I'm not saying that, but there are a lot of people for which they do not have those kind of challenges that act like it is inaccessible to them. But I see what they spend on other things. So, New Bold One says, yeah, travel is a luxury. It is a luxury. Christopher says, some people spend more on that per month for coffee, drinks, and or smokes. Exactly. Mimi says, greetings from Pennsylvania. We're on a camping trip and state park cell service is good. Oh, that's exciting. How is it? Is it totally bananas at the campgrounds? I used to always do a trip on 4th of July weekend with the bike camping group that I led. And 4th of July weekend used to be the first weekend in Oregon that you could guarantee probably didn't get rained out because we tend to have a very rainy June. Climate change has meant that it's all over the place these days. But we used to always do a trip. And one of the reasons that we would do a bike camping trip on that weekend is because the hiker biker sites you can't reserve and you can't access if you didn't bike or hike there. But all of the other sites would be completely booked out the 364 days before, which is the first time that you can make a reservation at Oregon State ones. Mimi says, totally agree, regards set budget and plan accordingly. I mean, this is probably some self-selection bias of people that want to tune into a budgeting live stream on the weekend. So, yeah. But let's eat this donut, right? I don't have someone to adjust the camera, so I'll do my best at making it appear. But this is a blueberry crumble donut. And yeah, we'll try this donut. It's got like pie crumble topping. I'm pretty sure I've had this one before. Ooh. I didn't know this, but it has some lemon in it. It's really good. It's like a combo of lemon and blueberry. Ooh, I'm really liking this. This is very much a real blueberry flavor. It is not the fake like candy blueberry flavor. Mmm, this is delicious. Okay, this donut is really good. And I'm feeling like maybe I haven't had it before because I'm enjoying it so much. It's just like a very puffy donut inside, and then it has these pie like crust crumbles on the top. And the like it's not really frosting or icing, it's just sort of like the sauce that is hardened on the outside, but it doesn't it's not like thick frosting or anything. But it is just like blueberries have just been melted with a little bit of lemon like in a hot pan, I think, and it is so good. It is like the blueberry pie like when you pour it in. This is absolutely delicious. This is much better than last week's donut. Last week's donut was just too sugary. Oh, I think I lost my donut rating. I'm trying to see if I have one. No, I think it's off the stream deck here. There's an awful lot of buttons I'm looking at right now, y'all. I found it. I had to go up like 5 pages. 4 out of 5 donuts. This is delicious. I love this. This is so good. Yep, 4 out of 5. That was a delicious donut. It is completely gone. I cleaned my plate immediately. It was so good I couldn't really talk while I was eating it because I just wanted to finish it. I also might be a little hungry. As I mentioned at the top of the stream, yesterday I biked 30 miles and I skated for 90 minutes. So I don't think I like ate enough replacement calories for that. So Mimi says it seems like among my friends and acquaintances some folks don't like or want to know how to plan travel. I think that like for some people like you just don't, if you don't enjoy travel planning and you don't like going on trips, don't do it. For me, I love trip planning. I find it very fun. For me, I love the like spreadsheets and the schedules. Like obviously the kind of travel I like to do involves like a lot of long distance trains and matching up schedules and everything. And it's fun for me. But I know it's not fun for everyone. Some people find traveling to be a very stressful experience. And some people want a different kind of travel than I want. But the thing for me is if you're acting like my level of travel is out of reach when you spend, it just means it's not in your priorities. And that's okay. New Bold One says, it's interesting what folks regard as essentials. I've had to adjust my priorities over the years. Yeah, I mean, I think my big, like, reconciliation that I've had to make is how much I spend on figure skating now, which is one of the reasons I didn't want to come back to the sport, because I genuinely do spend a lot of money on figure skating. I think I keep track of my marginal cost per hour of skating, and year to date, I just figured this out earlier today. That's why I know it off the top of my head. But year to date, it's $6.34 an hour per hour of skating, which makes it a lot more expensive than a lot of other things I do. You know, previously I had it down to like $2 or $3 an hour, but at the time I wasn't getting any private coaching. I realistically need private coaching. I'm too high of a level to figure skating is kind of like once you're past the basics, you get private coaching, which is really unfortunate. I wish that it was better taught in group format, but there's a reason it's a really expensive sport. I also really need new ice skates. My ice skates are 20 years old. They are older than most people I skate with. And because of that, I I really do need new skates. I need a different kind of skates because I've switched to ice dancing and your boots are a little different. But it's really expensive and it's hard for me to view as an essential, like a priority. It's hard for me to view it as a priority because it'll probably be a couple $1,000s between boots and blades. And yeah, that's been something I've really had to reconcile that's changed over the years. But for me, it's also giving myself a lot of grace. Like something I talk about when I teach about budgeting is like, it's okay for your priorities to change. It means you're growing and evolving as a human being. My 20-year-old self would have heavily judged some things that I spend money on. And then, and like, it's you do you. Like, you can change and grow and evolve as a human. And that should honestly be reflected in your budget. One thing that I've had to really reconcile with is that food inflation is going up for everyone. And I can't be mad at myself for not spending the same amount on food as I was 5 years ago when inflation is at 8.76%. Christopher says, our level of travel is out of reach for a lot of people, but people should not use it as a standard for travel. I have plenty of friends who will pull out tips and tricks to have fun in their ways. Yeah, I think that is the I think that's what's like important to recognize. I also think that there's a lot of people that will say they want to go do one trip. Like all they care about is like one trip, but they'll act like it's a dream, absolutely unachievable trip. But even if it's the most expensive trip in the world, if it's been a thing that you've dreamed about for 10 years, you probably could set aside the money even for a luxury trip of some sort or to a really expensive location. Like one big thing that I, am hoping to do is, I know that it doesn't sound very exciting, but I would actually really like to take a train into North Korea. Obviously, when you travel to North Korea, it is, you won't get to experience the same kind of things. It's tightly controlled, but I would like to see it because I'm very interested in their, they have the historic Korean rail gauge trains, and you come in from China, and if I get a non-American passport, then I'll be able to travel to North Korea, and that's a very expensive trip. It's something that I had to save up for. I'll have to save up for it, just like how I had to save up for the Trans-Siberian trip. Like, altogether, that trip costed me like almost $36,000, I believe. I did a full blog post on it. Cost of a dream train trip anomaly. I did a full breakdown of that Trans-Siberian trip that I can show off. But like, that wasn't something that I just immediately paid for. Like, even though it was very expensive, I saved up for a bunch of years for that trip. And there's a lot of people who continually put off some sort of trip, and in that time they probably could have allocated money to it, and it means that it's not a priority for them, which is okay. It's okay to not have travel be your priority. But if you whine about it but then act like it could be a priority, that's a different category. So yeah, it's 33,308 is what I spent on the 13 country train trip to the Trans-Siberian. And most of that really was train tickets and then visa and visa fees because is going to China. I got a 10-year multiple reentry visa for China, so I haven't had to get another one since then. But then Russia was very expensive, and Mongolia I also needed a transit visa through. And then the rest of them were mostly EU or at least Schengen countries, so I didn't have to, but pay for visas. Mimi says, you're right about prioritizing. For some trips, I started planning a year ahead, especially using YouTube to help me make decisions. And truly planning is part of the enjoyment of the trip itself. Yeah, for this trip, the Trans-Siberian trip, I planned this one, I don't know, years and years in advance. And so But I also really like to use YouTube to help you prioritize, because for some trips I'll be like, yeah, it is worth it to spend money on this tourist experience. Christopher says, you will be surprised how cheap it is for 10 days travel to China, including airfare and high-speed train. I don't know. I find the high-speed trains in China to be quite expensive. I mean, they're not nearly as expensive as like high-speed rail is in Europe or in Japan, but it's like quite a lot more expensive than high-speed rail in some other countries in Asia. Um, but, you know, you can also take the slow trains in China, and those are significantly less expensive. I think, how much did I end up spending on the high speed rail? I took the fastest HSR in the world, which is between long train, which is between China and Beijing, or Shanghai and Beijing, when I was there. Now there's a faster one, but that was the fastest at the time. And where was it? Oh, I don't have it broken down, I don't think. Oh, wait, no. Where is the trains? Do you guys like watching me scroll? So yeah, the high speed one was 96.91, which is really expensive, especially relative to wages in China. But you know, it was a lot more affordable than high speed rail is in Europe. So, you know, I'll take that for sure. And then obviously the Trans-Mongolia Railway is very expensive, but it's also 10 days long. So there's that. the Yeah, but generally in China I didn't spend nearly as much on food and everything like that. And when I go back, now that I don't have to pay for the visa, because Americans, we're one of the only countries that can get this 10-year multiple reentry business visa, and because of that I don't have to pay for visa fees every time I go back. Russia, I mean, not that I could travel there right now anyway, but Russia, you have to pay for the visa fees every time, and they're really expensive. So, yeah. But yes, I found lodging to be very inexpensive in China, and obviously food is, so that part was really nice. But a lot of the tourist activities, I would say, are pretty pricey. But you know, I was able to do like Great Wall of China, I think costs almost nothing. The entry fees at Bottling, and I was able to take a public bus to Bottling. So that part was nice. And yes, I totally did the Disneyland version of the Great Wall of China. It was like towards the end of my trip. I've been traveling for over a month, and I just wanted to do it. So I did like a long hike, but I didn't do any of the like, Bottling is very much like the easy section of the Great Wall. It's everything's, you know, there's trash cans every certain number of feet, and lots of people walking it in like high heels. So it's definitely a lot easier than some other sections of the Great Wall. All right, y'all. I think we are done. Would people be interested in a pack with me video? I don't know if that's fun for people to watch. I always travel in just one backpack, so I usually have a pretty, I guess maybe for some people it's an interesting setup. I do very, like, you know, even long trips to a bunch of countries, I do everything in one backpack, one carry-on. No rolling bags, no no check bags for sure, ever. I don't think anybody wants to do a check bag right now, because there's like huge buildups at certain airports and stuff like that. So Mimi, I knew you were gonna say I love pack with me videos. Christopher says, well, for a week, it's not that hard. Yeah, I bring pretty much the same stuff for a week as I do for a month or several months, generally. Although I'll usually bring like a little bit more variety in something like jewelry or something like that. I need more stuff for work, but yeah. Jenny says, I would watch a pack with me video because I really like the puzzle of packing into small spaces. Yeah, the backpack I have is really cool. It opens like this. So the advantage of being really tiny are that my clothes are really small. The disadvantage of being really tiny is I have limited back real estate. So I can only get, like, I often get children's backpacks when I travel, because adult sized backpacks look ridiculous on me. New Bold One says, I would because I enjoy packing and I have friends who do ultralight travel, though I never have. My ex's parents, who were in their 60s, did, I think, 6 or 7 weeks around Australia and New Zealand, and they did it with no luggage. Like, everything was in the pockets of their coats, which struck me as supremely badass. But I am not that badass. I've always wanted to do a no luggage trip, but I always just do a small backpack at least. Aaron says, I'm so glad I didn't check bags on this trip. I flew through passport control in New Zealand, first one out of the airport. That's my favorite thing, especially when you have global entry, of the just like when you walk through customs and you just have like a small bag, and I multiple times have had guards be like, where's your bags? And me be like, this is it. I feel very cool. So the only downside of the going on, even though this is a short trip, I'm going to two completely different climates, because New Zealand is in the winter and then I'm going to Hawaii as my layover on either side. And because of that, I've got to like pack for two different climates. I think mostly it'll be fine. I'll just like not wear tights or something like that when I am in Hawaii. So New Bold One, it says, I've always wanted to do that. Like, have credit card, will travel, must be so freeing. Yeah, there was like a long-running joke about credit card touring, but now it's totally a thing, which is bike touring, where you don't pack like all your camping stuff and instead you just stay in hotels every night. And it sounds kind of nice. The Christopher says, rumor have people on your flight are still waiting for their checked ones. Whew. A pack video with camera operators. Well, my main camera operator is already in New Zealand, so I will probably include. So this is my camera related thing that's going on. So I had an Osmo Pocket, little baby camera, loved it, has a gimbal, used it a lot for like travel time lapses and stuff. Found it a great lightweight travel camera. I left it, I think, on a train in March in Europe, either in Slovakia or Germany, not sure, or Slovakia or Austria, not sure which, and couldn't find it. Even tried to like where I thought I left it. I tried to find like have the transport company, the Deutsche Railway, actually like try to find it, because I had found the like seat number we were sitting at and everything, but no luck. Didn't get it back. Decided, okay, well, now is time to upgrade it. I had that camera for 3 years, got a lot of mileage out of it, decided I was going to get myself the upgrade of that camera since I lost it. But put off ordering it until this week. And because I was like, oh, it's kind of expensive. Should I really do this? Ordered it, got it on Friday from Amazon refurbished. It turns out I got a defective camera. So I was getting an error thrown that at first I was like, oh, it must be me. And then I looked it up and this is like a known defective error. I tried doing the troubleshooting steps I found online, which were like a firmware update and other things. Nope, this is just an error. That's probably why it was being sold Amazon refurbished new. So I'm going to have to return it. Was like, crap. Yesterday, is when I discovered the camera was definitely defective. So I was like, crap, do I try to get another one before I leave tomorrow? And ended up a couple hours before the deadline ordering it Amazon one day to get the camera. And yes, I did check local merchants. None of them had it in stock. There's not that many places to get like cameras, especially like kind of more niche cameras in Portland, but none of them had it in stock. So I ordered it Amazon one day. It says it's going to arrive by 10 p.m. today, but we will see. So I am waiting to find out if my Pocket One arrives before I leave, because, you know, sometimes when Amazon says things are coming by 10 p.m., it'll keep saying that it's coming, and then at 10:08 p.m., it'll be like, nope, it's actually coming tomorrow. So all right, y'all. Thank you so much for coming and joining. We've been streaming for an incredibly long time. So I will see you all soon. I will see you hopefully from New Zealand next week if I make it there fine. Stay safe if you're in the US. Have a safe Independence Day. Stay away from fireworks. And I will see you from New Zealand next week. Cheers. Bye. Now I'm trying to turn this off and I'm just vamping, y'all. I lost the screen. I lost the screen to turn it off.